Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike McKirdy, and I have the tremendous honour and privilege of being the President of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow. And you are all very welcome, those of you here at the front in your academic gowns, and those of you here to support them at the back of the hall. It's wonderful to see the whole place full and so many proud mums, dads, spouses at the back of the hall. And so welcome to everybody. This is the College Hall, built as an extension to the building that we moved to in 1862, which faces St Vincent Street. And this was built as a place for college members and fellows to meet, to discuss new ideas in medicine and surgery, and also to dine together, to be sociable together. And it's given us a place to hang up some of these portraits you see around the walls. And over my right shoulder here is Sir William McEwen, and those of you who have been downstairs already will have been reading about his innovations in surgery in the 19th century. He died 100 years ago this year, and at the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century, he was unquestionably the most famous surgeon in the world. And he was the first person to operate inside the head, inside the cranium, and he described that first operation in what used to be the hall at the front of the college in 1879, where just a few years earlier, his mentor and teacher, Joseph Lister, had described to the college fellows his new theory of antiseptic surgery, which McEwen developed to become aseptic surgery. There's a temptation when you're in an old building like this to think about the past and all the things that happened prior to our time in medicine and surgery. But we also have been celebrating this year somebody who's alive, I'm delighted to say, Professor Sir Graham Teasdale, who's one of my predecessors as the president of the college. And those of you who are surgeons or work in emergency medicine, and even those of you who watch television documentaries or dramas about medical care, will have heard of the GCS, the Glasgow Coma Scale, which was written up by Graham Teasdale and his colleague Brian Jeanette 50 years ago in July 1974. So we're very proud of this heritage. We're also proud to be known as a welcoming and friendly college. Our crest above the door here, our #1 motto is Conjurat Amici, which means together in friendship. And I hope you will feel this evening that you are together with us in friendship as we celebrate all these young achievers. But before we get to them, we have some special people to recognise who this evening will become honorary fellows of our college because of their particularly distinguished careers. And so I'm going to ask now Professor Hania Tiba, President-elect, and who in just 3 weeks' time will be my successor, to come to the podium here, and Sir Gregor Smith, Chief Medical Officer for Scotland, to come and join me here in the centre of the hall.
Mr. President, it is my honour and privilege to present Professor Sir Gregor Smith for honorary fellowship of our college. Sir Gregor is best known as the Scotland Chief Medical Officer, a role he was appointed to in 2020 when he skillfully supported the entire country through some of the most difficult days of the COVID pandemic. He has also carried out action that emergency and healthcare sustainability. He was proudly developed a culture of stewardship at NHS Scotland. His values-based approach to person-centred care, reducing harm and waste, and fostering innovation lies at the heart of his personal philosophy. Indeed, these are values that our college holds dear, and it is therefore, Mr. President, fitting that we should honour him today. Sir Gregor's clinical speciality is general practice. After 15 years as partner in a GP practice in South Lanarkshire, he began working part-time for the Scottish Government in 2012. He was a medical advisor in primary care. In 2015, he became Deputy Chief Medical Officer, a role he carried out until April 2020, when he became the interim Chief Medical Officer, less than a fortnight into the first national lockdown. As an independent principal clinical and public health and public health advisor to Scottish ministers, Sir Gregor leads a Scottish government director comprising 4 divisions. He also undertaken a number of operational leadership roles, including Health Board Chief Executive, Medical Director, and Clinical Network Lead. He has also been a co-author and co-developer of the renowned, and he is most proud of, realistic medicine approach to care since its inception in 2016. In 2022, he was bestowed knighthood in the Queen's New Year's Honours List for services to public health. In 2024, he was appointed by the King as Honorary Air Commander to the 612 Squadron of the Royal Air Force. Sir Greg continues to inspire generations. As first-generation university graduate, Sir Gregor is a powerful advocate of widening access to higher education. He regularly participates in the Speakers of School program. He's also an honorary professor at Glasgow University, having graduated from this institution in 1994. He's a Quality and Safety Fellow, and he's Salzburg Global Fellow. In his spare time, Sir Gregor is enthusiastic about keeping fit and believes that getting outside can help improve people's physical and mental and social health. Finally, Mr. President, I think if we were to mention the things in life that most proud of, it could not forget to mention a number of people that Sir Gregor have benefited from his support and encouragement to pursue leadership roles. In fact, I have to say, he was my mentor as an AMD, Associate Medical Director at the Golden Jubilee National Hospital. Look at me today, sorry for any disappointment. The proudest moment in his career, however, has to be realistic medicine and the impact it continues to have on people. On a personal note, Sir Gregor immensely proud of the achievement of his daughter, Olivia. Olivia, despite some difficult times and sacrifices, she has excelled and started Glasgow University studying mechanical, aeronautic and engineering, aiming to career in Formula One racing, and hopefully that will be her great success. Mr. President, it is my great pleasure to invite you to confer the honorary fellowship on Professor Sir Gregor Smith.
And who I'll invite to come into the middle of the stage here.
Mr. President, it's my privilege to present Professor Jonathan Lund for the Honorary Fellowship in Surgery of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow. John is a Yorkshire lad who played rugby and sprinted for the county before studying medicine at the University of Nottingham. He was lead guitarist in a band called Ruby Tuesday. But you will soon see why we're thankful he decided to focus his career at least on surgery, even if he still does tinker a lot with the guitars, and I reckon has more than 20-something guitars, yes. John trained in general surgery in the East Midlands, with a special interest in colorectal surgery. As a research registrar, his doctoral thesis on the non-surgical treatment of anal fissures completely changed the management of this common condition, and quite rightly earned him the Patey Prize from the Surgical Research Society and a Hunterian professorship from the Royal College of Surgeons of England. He was also the gold medal winner, which is first, in the FRCS exam in general surgery. After a short period as a consultant surgeon in York, he returned to Nottingham, where he is consultant colorectal surgeon at Derby Royal Hospital and head of the academic department of surgery and professor at the University of Nottingham. His research interests in colorectal disease are wide and varied, and he remains committed to improvements in perianal disease, more effective treatment for pilonidal disease, and currently exercise interventions to improve outcomes after surgery. He's published nearly 500 papers and supervised over 30 PhDs across clinical surgery and surgical training. I first met John when he chaired the National Selection Panel in General Surgery. His enthusiastic support of trainees was clear, and he developed a fair and transparent process to choose our future surgeons. He has been surgical tutor, training programme director for both core training and specialist trainees in general surgery. He was head of the School of Surgery for the East Midlands Deanery and has been recognised with awards for excellence in teaching and the learning environment. More than 15 years ago, John was one of the first to develop extensive offerings of e-learning for students and trainees, and subsequently moving to the School of Surgery podcasts and the School of Surgery YouTube channels. It offers topics on surgery to undergraduate and postgraduate trainees, with over 50,000 subscribers and a worldwide audience. Since 2015, John has held every senior role in the UK in surgical training. He chaired the General Surgery Specialty Advisory Committee and led the design of the new outcomes-based curriculum, followed by becoming Surgical Director of ISCP, the Intercollegiate Surgical Curricula Programme, where he extended these revisions of curriculum across all the surgical specialties and introduced the multi-consultant report and assessment. He's recently completed his term as chair of the Joint Committee on Surgical Training, where, quite apart from navigating through the lost training opportunities of COVID, he's led surgical training through further initiatives and curricular changes, the national online teaching programmes, and investigation of the issues of differential attainment in surgical training. It's the surgical equivalent of having been Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary, Chancellor and PM. Finally, he's recently been appointed as Dean of Surgical Education at the College of Surgeons in Edinburgh. John has been a truly significant driving force in UK surgical training, and as I'm sure he would want me to say in his own words, #no training today, no surgeons tomorrow. Mr. President, it's now my great pleasure to invite you to confer the Honorary Fellowship in Surgery on Professor Jonathan Lund.
Vested in me by the Council of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow, it is my great pleasure to confer upon you this honorary fellowship of And can I now ask Professor Abhi Rani, College Registrar, to come to the podium, and Professor Majid Chowdhury to come and join me here.
Thank you, President. This citation from my friend Abhi Rani Chowdhury. I'm delighted that he's joined at this meeting this evening by his wife, Rabina. Welcome, Rabina, as well. Professor Chowdhury is a fellow of our college in good standing, having passed his FRCS Glas by examination in 1978. He's been a good friend of our college for several decades. Currently serves as our international advisor from Pakistan. He also holds a master's in medical education from Holland and is an honorary fellow of the College of Surgeons of Sri Lanka and of the Association of Surgeons of India. He's very well known in the field of surgery in Pakistan, and quite unusually, he has always advocated practical, sustainable, and affordable surgical solutions to common surgical problems that affect a large number of the population in that country. He's currently in post as Principal of Lahore Medical and Dental College in Lahore, Pakistan, and is past President of the Asian Association for Regional Cooperation Surgical Care Society. He holds a number of posts in the National Curriculum Committee of Pakistan, Medical and Dental Council, and is an examiner for the FCPS exams of the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Pakistan. He has a number of original research papers to his credit, as well as being an editor of a book on surgical practice that he has edited on behalf of the SARC Society. In view of his long-standing association with our college and his sterling contribution to medical and surgical education both in Pakistan and internationally, I feel that he is a worthy recipient of the honorary fellowship of our college. President, may I present Professor Abdul Majid Chowdhury for the award of honorary fellowship of our college. Thank you.
Round of applause first.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Professor Majid Chowdhury, using the powers vested in me by the Council of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow, it is my delight and pleasure to confer upon you this honorary fellowship of our college.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Come and sign here. I've got you here. There you are. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please keep going.
Could all new fellows and members please stand? This is the oath of allegiance to the college. Do you solemnly and sincerely declare that you will be faithful fellows and members of this college, obey all laws, regulations, and bylaws made and to be made by the college, and will do nothing which, in the opinion of the college, is prejudicial to the interest of or derogatory to the honor of the college or of your profession? Please. Thank you. Please be seated. May I now invite Dr. Eric Livingston, Vice President, Medical, to present the diplomas to all new medical fellows and members, starting with Fellowship qua Physician, FRCP Glasgow, Shahid Iqbal. Alvin Jun Xing Lee. R. Putashanan Rajamanikam. We move on to Membership qua Physician, MRCP Glasgow, Rizwan Ali Awan. Kimberly McIntyre. Moving on to MRCP UK, Faryal Bhatti. Isabel Bao. Nicholas Chen. Rona Catherine Johnston. Ayla Kempe. Maureen Milligan. Andrew Wilkinson. Solomon Yima. Thank you, Eric. May I now please invite Mr. John Scott, Vice President Surgical, to present diplomas to all new surgical fellows, starting with Fiona Ross, who also gets the Intercollegiate Specialty Fellowship in General Surgery and the Teasdale Medal. FRCS Glasgow by election, Syed Anwaruzaman. FRCS Ophthalmology, Glasgow, beginning with Abdulaziz Al-Kabi. Abdel Hamid Ghunaim. Kieran Garrett Nagwa. Ali Rashadinia. MRCS Glasgow, starting with Dhanya Akshay. Ewan Fraser. Luke Murphy. Anton Andrew Nishanthan. Kiara Paramjyoti. Shiant Selvatanraja. Moving on to MRCPS Glasgow, Mazhar Ali. Nadia Kitab. Thank you, John. May I now invite Professor Christine Goodall, Vice President Dental, to present the diplomas to all new dental fellows and members. Christine? There she is. So, Orthodontics, M-Orth, RCPS Glasgow, Iman Binti Azmuddin. Robin Matthew Niram Talape. Membership of the Faculty of Dental Surgery, Sumaya Ibrahim. Thank you, Christine. May I now invite Dr. David Ross to present the diplomas to new travel medicine fellows. We only have one, Thomas Bina. Thank you, David. President, that concludes the admissions for the fellows and members. May I request you to deliver your address now? Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Oh, thanks very much indeed. I really, really clearly remember coming here on the 3rd of December 1991 with my mum and dad to get my fellowship scroll. And I'm really delighted that we're in the college hall tonight, welcoming you all into the college community and the college family. So thank you for coming. Many of you come from far distant shores. There are people from all over the UK and Ireland, but we're joined tonight by people from Malaysia, from all over South Asia, in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, from the Middle East, from Europe. There's somebody from Germany, and also from the Caribbean. Somebody's come from Trinidad and Tobago. So there are 11 countries here tonight represented, in you new fellows and members of the college, and you are all very welcome to our community now of over 16,000 fellows and members in over 100 countries across the world. We're very proud of that heritage that I mentioned, and because we were formed a long time ago in the 16th century, in 1599, by a man called Peter Lowe, who was born somewhere around these parts, we're not entirely certain where, in about 1550. And he travelled as a young person for a surgical training in France, in what were called the Wars of Religion, and he came back here to Glasgow in about the year 1595, 1596, and the year after, 1597, he published the first ever textbook in English of surgery, the whole course of chirurgery, as it was called, because everything before that time was published in Latin in Europe. And he then petitioned King James VI of Scotland, who was to become King James I of Great Britain and Ireland, to form a royal college here in Glasgow. And the reason for that was that he thought that standards of medical practice here were not very good. And because of that, he wanted to have an institution that would set standards and license those who practiced medicine. And at that time, our area and sphere of influence was only here in the west of Scotland. But over time, our sphere of influence has reached other parts of the world, as I say now, over 100 countries. Quite shockingly, and as I look this evening, so many of our new fellows and members are women. Quite shockingly, for the first 300 years or so of our college's history, there were no female fellows and members, but that was because there were no female doctors either. We have finally a woman on the walls of College Hall at the back there, Jamini Sen, born in Bengal, who graduated from Kolkata Medical School and then went to practice in the family of the royal household of Nepal, came to Ireland for some of her surgical training, and presented herself here in 1912 for the fellowship exam that many of you have sat now. And she passed. And because she had passed the exam, nobody could deny her admission as a college fellow. So we're delighted to have her portrait on the wall. And we're delighted that as part of that, we've made contact with her family in Kolkata again. And that relationship is continuing through some research that we're sponsoring a PhD student at Strathclyde University to look into the tremendous contribution of doctors from South Asia to the Scottish Health Service. So we're delighted to have her also hanging in our walls. As the registrar read out each of your names this evening and you came up here and processed across the College Hall, we all applauded. And so we should have, because you deserve that applause. You have worked hard for that. You've denied yourself family time, recreational time, relaxation, hobbies and other interests, to come home after long days at work, switch on a desk lamp, open up a laptop, maybe even a textbook, and study and prepare for the exams which you have now successfully passed. So you absolutely deserve our applause and our congratulations. But I would suggest to you there's one or two other people here this evening who would also deserve a round of applause. A couple of them have been quite noisy so far, drawing attention to themselves here. And that's all these people at the back, your children, your spouses, partners, your mums and dads, your significant others, maybe even somewhere a grandparent. And I think they deserve a round of applause too. So I'm going to ask you new diplomats to join me, stand up, turn round, and give them a round of applause, because they deserve it. So what's this thing you've become a part of, a Royal College? What do Royal Colleges do? Well, we set standards, you know that. You've just had to jump over that bar. And that's an important thing for us to do. We also provide education, and you'll be pleased about that as the years go by, because education and ongoing education is so important. I'm sorry to disappoint you now that you've just passed the exam, but learning is going to go on, and you're going to have to keep on learning new things, because the pace of medical knowledge is getting faster and faster and faster. The estimate in 1950 was it took 50 years for the sum total of medical knowledge to double. By 1980, that was 7 years, and by 2020, it was 73 days. So there's a lot more information out there. And part of our role as a college community is to give you the resources you need to navigate that in your careers ahead. How can you keep at the point you are today at the tip top of your knowledge and clinical practice? And so we will continue to do that. The college is celebrating its 425th anniversary in a couple of weeks' time, and one of the themes we've taken out from that is innovation. And I mentioned Sir William McEwen and Graham Teasdale, but innovation is going on all over the world right now. Here in the west of Scotland, my successor, Professor Atiba, and his colleagues in interventional cardiology at the Jubilee Hospital, great innovations, great strides being taken forward. Those of you in surgery, robotic surgery is the next new thing which we need to have an understanding of, and how are we going to use that in our clinical practice, but real innovation taking place. And I'm delighted to be joined this evening in our serried rows here by Professor Saira Salim from Faisalabad in Pakistan, who's been on our college council for the last 3 years. And my great privilege in visiting Pakistan and Professor Chowdhury and Professor Salim in March of this year to see the innovative work that was taking place there in breast cancer, my specialty in breast cancer care in Pakistan. So innovation needs to be part of your thinking, because it's not all going to stay the same. Things will change, practice will change, and you'll have to change with that and keep up to date. And we'll help you do that. As a community, though, we offer other opportunities for you to be involved. Maybe one day you'll become an examiner. There you are, that'd be good on the other side of the table, wouldn't it? Maybe one day you'll become an educator, help us with our skills training programs, be involved in the college community. There are leadership programs, mentorship programs. We need you, young people, to come and volunteer and be part of our community to help us with that work. And we hope that many of you will. Some of your expertise might be in policy and helping us shape what should we say when Sir Gregor Smith's government, when Sir Chris Whitty's government send us consultations. Only today into my inbox have come the very topical issue after the diagnosis of Olympian Sir Chris Hoy, prostatic cancer screening in the UK. What should we do about that? Really difficult topic in public health. Assisted dying legislation is before Scottish Parliament and also just about to be in the UK Parliament. So people ask our community, what do we think about these things? And it's not up to me to decide what do we think about these things. It's up to all of us as a community to bring our collective thoughts to that and to help our governments and our healthcare systems make good decisions. So I hope you will think about joining in that work. Over the last few years, we've taken some themes which we've heard from you, our fellows and members, and we've talked a lot about environmental sustainability and climate change, because we in healthcare have got quite a big responsibility for that. We produce 4% of the UK's carbon output, and in many countries around the world that figure is much higher because of the need for air cooling in hospital facilities. 2/3 of that carbon output is with us surgeons in the operating theatre, but physicians can also help with that work. We need to think about what we waste and throw away. What could we do better, more efficiently? What could we do that protects our planet? We've also been talking, and Professor Annie Atiba mentioned Sir Gregor Smith's role in this here in Scotland, talking about health inequalities. I think the biggest audience we ever had for a webinar during COVID was about 1,500 people from all around the world to talk about health inequalities. And that's the concept that people's expectation at birth of what their health will be for the rest of their life is really quite different, whether they come from the poorest or the richest parts of our community. There's a difference between male and female life expectancy, a difference in healthy life expectancy between those who are poorest in our communities and those who are richest. And that's not all about us delivering healthcare. That's about work and housing and safe communities and health behaviours. Here in this city of Glasgow, of the 650 poorest parliamentary constituents, of the 650 parliamentary constituents we have in the UK, the poorest 6 are in this city of Glasgow, with the shortest life expectancy. So at home here in Glasgow for our institution, talking and speaking up about health inequalities and what we can do to address them is really important. And part of that, as I said, is about health behaviours. We have terrible problems in Scotland with our abuse of drugs. And on Thursday of this week, we're going to be talking about something which probably bothers all of us at some point or other in life. Our weight, becoming overweight and obese, is now all too common. And that drives the increase in problems with musculoskeletal disorders, with cancer, and also with psychological illness. And so we are going to have a conference on Thursday to look at that and what we could do as healthcare professions to help with that. And for all of you, one of the things that we've been very consistent in talking about in recent years is your well-being. Because the delivery of healthcare isn't always easy. We in our community celebrate the fact that we're a multidisciplinary community of physicians and surgeons and dentists and travel medicine, and they're not here tonight, podiatric medicine, our 5th faculty. And we're very proud to be a multidisciplinary college because multidisciplinary care is how we deliver healthcare these days, whether it's in cancer or cardiology or care of the elderly. It doesn't matter what our specialty is. We have to be able to work in teams and work with other people. And it's very clear that when teams become dysfunctional, and they do, I'm afraid, become dysfunctional sometimes, it's because of the health of the mental health of the people making up those teams. So we encourage you to look after yourselves in your clinical careers. We've got a little booklet, I think we've got copies downstairs. But for me, personally, I find a hand really helpful with what you need to do about your well-being. Number 1 point of these 5 is to connect. Connect with other people. Connect with your colleagues. Connect with your family and friends, your faith communities, your neighbours. Connect with us here at the college. Be part of something bigger than yourself. Be active, whether that's triathlons or going for a walk around the park, but be active because that's really important for your mental health. And I'm sorry to mention this one, learning. Learning's very good for your mental health, just as you passed all these exams. But you don't just need to read medical journals. You can also read novels and poetry. You can be interested in other things. You can find hobbies and interests to sustain yourselves in your careers. So remember to learn. And a 4th quite difficult concept in all of this is be in the moment. Take notice of what's round about you. It's very easy when you're awful busy, and people in healthcare are awful busy, to dwell on the things that happened yesterday or to plan for the things that might happen next week and not to really just be in that time right now and to do the very best you can at that time. But that is important. And the last of these 5 things to remember is to give. That's quite a hard concept, isn't it? Everywhere in the world that psychologists have done this experiment, the result has been the same. It doesn't matter whether the denomination of money is in pounds or dollars or rupees. If you give somebody a quantum of money and say, go into town and buy something nice for yourself, and then you measure their anxiety and depression, their mental health, simple scores after they've done that, and then get them all to come back and give them the same amount of money and say, go into town and buy something for somebody else, and measure their mental health when they come back, which one do you think is better? The people who are going to give something to somebody else. And that experiment has been done countless times. It's very counterintuitive. And you will all know about workforce burnout and all the challenges of delivering care. But actually, giving, and you as healthcare professionals are uniquely placed to be able to give to your fellow human beings. Giving is really important. And tonight we've given you 3 great examples of giving. Sir Gregor Smith as the Chief Medical Officer, Professor Majid Chowdhury as a teacher in Pakistan, and a deliverer was not mentioned of free cancer care in his cancer care hospital in Lahore. Professor John Lund organising surgical training in the UK all through the pandemic, and that great hashtag, no training today, no surgeons tomorrow. So these 3 men have all given more than they needed to, and they're great examples. And they've given more than you might or I might in our careers, but they're examples for you tonight to take home and think about. And Sir Gregor, in his annual reports on the Scottish Health Service in recent years, has reminded us of the danger of thinking of healthcare only at industrial scale, adding up all that we do, thinking only of what we do in units, in quantums, in operations, in patients seen in clinics, and forgetting about the essence of care, the interaction between two human beings, one of them a patient and the other a healthcare professional. And that interaction is your opportunity, your unique opportunity to give in your lives and sustain your well-being and sustain your happy, fulfilling careers that we wish for you. Some of you may know of the Irish poet Seamus Heaney. He's quite big in the school curriculum in the UK. He won the Nobel Prize in 1995, Nobel Prize for Literature. And Heaney was born in a little tiny town in Northern Ireland, County Antrim, in 1939, Balachi. He's famous in the school curriculum for poems like Midterm Break, which accounts the death of a younger brother and being called home from school, of digging. His father and grandfather were farmers, and he realised that their skill in farming and manual labour was not one that he had. And so in the great line in his poem, between my finger and thumb, my squat pen rests, I'll dig with this. You all have a unique gift in healthcare, and that's what you'll do your digging with, and we wish you well in that. When Heaney died in 2013, they opened a museum about his life called the Home Place in Balachi. And I had the great delight of going to visit it a few years ago. And it's got all the things you would expect when you arrive in a museum about a poet or an author. They have some artifacts from his life, they've got some books, they tell the tale of what he did in his time. And he was a real polymath. He was the professor of poetry at Oxford and also at Harvard. He was very familiar with Latin and Greek and also ancient Anglo-Saxon. And on his acceptance of his 1995 Nobel Prize, he used the line, "Walk on air against your better judgment." As I left his little museum, the lady in charge said, "We'd like you to go and pop round. He's buried here, did you know?" And I didn't know he was buried there. So I went round the town to the graveyard, and there's a lot of people buried there. And I thought, where is his grave? And there it was, that line, "Walk on air against your better judgment." That is Heaney's chosen epitaph. I thought, what on earth does he mean by that? Because Heaney came from a community where you didn't really walk on air, as he reflected. You kept your head down. You didn't say much, and often you didn't say anything at all. That was the way to navigate your life. But he had a concept of watching the men, it's from a poem called The Gravel Walks, who were shoveling gravel out of the river. And as they stooped with heavy shovels to load those into wheelbarrows, and then push those heavy laden wheelbarrows, bent double, up from the riverbed. He watched all of that labour, and he realised that there is a paradox in lifting something heavy, which is the great feeling of lightness as you release it. And his concept of walking on air against your better judgment is the concept that the marvellous in life is as permissible as the mundane. We don't need to keep our heads down under the heavy loads of clinical practice or family life. We are allowed to look up and consider that the marvellous is as permissible as the mundane. We in the college wish you marvellous clinical careers. We wish all of your families and friends a marvellous evening here today, and we hope you will be great healthcare professionals, ambassadors for our college, and we wish you all the very best for your long clinical careers. Thank you for coming tonight.